Hi, my name is Tim Kidd. I'm UK Chief Commissioner, and this is my 60-second Scouter.
3, 2, 1.
What's the most essential item you pack on a camp that's unusual?
That's unusual. My gosh. So my most essential item, which says more about me than about whether it is essential or not, is my CK1 aftershave, because I always feel that I've even put some on to do this recording with you. Even though we are separated by electronics, I still think I'm not quite ready until I've got that on. And of course, if you haven't, this has never happened to me, you understand, but if you just haven't happened to have a shower that morning, it can cover up a whole pile of nasty things. So there you go, my most essential item for camp.
What is the best baked goods that you can do last minute, but it always goes down a treat?
It's always going to be my chocolate brownies, but I make them gluten-free. So they're made not because I'm gluten-free, but because then more people can enjoy them. And they're made from ground almonds and xanthan gum. The secret ingredient bit is xanthan gum, and then a load of other bits and pieces, as you might expect. And they only take about sort of 10 minutes to mix up, about 20 to 30 minutes in the oven, but they're pretty hardy. You know, they can be left to their own devices. And there are a few people who don't like chocolate brownies, but there's not many of them.
What got you involved in scouting?
Well, now there's a story attached to that. So it wasn't through my own volition, as ever. It was a lot of people's experiences. It was my mother. I'm a twin, and she sent me and my twin off to Cub Scouts. I thought for many, many years it was to make sure we developed, you know, physically, intellectually, socially, and spiritually, that we integrated and so on. Apparently, many, many years later, when I spoke to her, it's because we were very noisy at home and she wanted us out of the house. So we were sent to Cub Scouts because Beaver Scouts weren't invented then. So we went to Cub Scouts. And I think what's really important about this is that I've told this story quite a few times, but my twin is really, really sporty and outdoorsy and so on, and I'm not. Broadly, you know, my favorite days at school would be Latin and science and French and history. That would be my favorite days at school. Any day that had games or PE in it just filled me with dread. So I wasn't very good at those sorts of things. So I wasn't really an obvious scouty person, but they were really good. You know, my Arcala, Mrs. Gray, bless her, who helped me through my what was then bronze, silver and gold arrows, which meant I had to catch a ball 8 times out of 10, which I couldn't do for 3 months. It took ages. All these sorts of things. They showed me it was okay to have a go. So I learned, you know, how impressive it is standing on top of a mountain, which I'd never stood on. I would never have done it were it not for Scouts, because I would never have the guts to do it. And I was rubbish at games and all those sorts of things. But they gradually pulled this stuff out of me and helped me to do it. So what got me into Scouting was my mum sending us along to get us out of the house, as it turns out. What made me stay in Scouting, which I think is even more important, is the unlikely friendships, the unusual things that I learned, the fact that I can light a fire, that I can plan a hike up a hill or mountain, I can look after myself and put up tents and so on, which the sort of things which if you said to me at age 7 or 8 you could do that, would have been just well, not only outside of my imagination, but also just impossible for me to do. So I think that's what's really important.
What's your most defining moment as UK Chief Commissioner?
May I have 2?
Yes.
Because there's one that's pretty serious and one that's pretty scouty, really.
Okay.
And so my favorite one of all, the most define me as a UK Chief Commissioner, was being asked to present someone's a young lad's Silver Chief Scouts Award, and I just said yes. But what I hadn't realised was that we were going to do this at the nearby adventure park on the so-called death drop. So just after breakfast, this thing winched us to the top, and as it descended, leaving my stomach somewhere mid-air, I had to present this badge. Everybody else thought this was very, very funny. I just about managed to contain my breakfast in my body, so that was okay. It was hilarious after. It wasn't at the time. So that's really quite interesting. But in terms of a really serious answer, in terms of, you know, what is a UK Chief Commissioner all about, and what are we trying to achieve in terms of trying to focus where we're going as a movement in the UK, and that has got to be summit in 2017, the start of our 5-year strategic plan, where we came along with some ideas and some broad thoughts, and then over a weekend with district and county youth commissioners, district commissioners, county commissioners, GSLs, 700 plus people in the auditorium. We together shaped stuff, and things came out of that that were I'd never even thought we might do, so it was a genuine shaping by the movement that said these are the right things to be doing, and that's guided us ever since, and continues to guide us, and actually helped to guide us and give us some sort of bedrock on which to hold even during the pandemic times. It was absolutely helpful to say these are clearly the things that people want to be able to do. So it was fascinating, and it was scary, I think, because you're in front of an audience of 700 people, all of whom know what they're at and know what they're doing and all have good ideas, and we're trying to just sort of shape things and try and pull together the threads of it, and people worked really, really hard that weekend, and I think that was fabulous. It was a great experience to go through, met a huge number of really, really brilliant people, and it has shaped stuff and made things happen that we never thought we would ever do.
What is a positive event or memory that you have during lockdown?
Oh, there's quite a lot of things that I've taken through lockdown. I mean, at heart, I'm a bit of a sort of insular person, really. I'm happy enough with my own company, and I like a good book, and so on. And at times when I'm doing sort of the Scout stuff and I'm sort of on stage and seeing things, that can be quite draining at times. So in some sense, I wasn't really scared of lockdown, I suppose, not in the sense of being on my own, in the sense of what it's doing to people, absolutely, of course. So I think so things that we've learned. One is the power of being in a good team, and I mentioned a bit of this in my blog I posted recently. We'd worked pretty hard with Team UK to get to know each other, to work together, to cover when someone was not feeling up to things and so on, and be open about that sort of stuff, which is really, really important. And it was essential in my mind to get us through this. So at the start, we were meeting with Team UK every week online. I was meeting with Kester and Graham and with Matt and Ross from the staff team every day online, and we were doing huge amounts of what should we do next, how do we get this, how do we focus things, ... And I don't think we'd have got through that if we hadn't have felt like a team, but not just a team of people, but a team who are co-reliant, people who are prepared to say, this is too much for me, can someone do that bit, or to say, actually, no, I'm feeling quite good, I can do that if you want to. Those sorts of things, a give and take. That's a real thing about being a team when you know people, and you can also see the signs when you used to say, you say you're okay, but actually, I think you might need a bit of a stroke or something. So that sort of stuff. So I think that was absolutely fabulous. Whilst the situation was horrible and very difficult for many people, the ability to work with folk to get through it, and I guess lots of people have that experience, whether it's through work or through their scouting or through other activities in which they're involved. I suspect that many of them have found that, and I think it tested quite strongly the bonds of friendship and cooperation, and I think I found that hugely uplifting. And the other thing that I will take with me forever through this is that you don't always need to be spending all your time on the road or on trains or driving or whatever, going all over the place. And it was a bit of a hard lesson, I think, because I'd spent a lot of time meeting lots of people over the last few years, doing 25,000 miles a year in my car just for Scouts, and then you sort of look back at it and think, well, actually, which of that was really needed and how could we have done that? And I've made just under 300 videos over the last 18 months for people, short videos normally, but they wanted to play at their AGMs and so on. And of course, because people have been doing lots of things online, it's been easy to integrate that sort of stuff. I visited, I don't know, I've lost count of 100, 200 online stuff. I've seen Beaver Scout colonies, Scout troops, Cub Scout packs, Explorer Scout units. I've done cooking with Explorer Scout unit. I've done crepe Suzette with an Explorer Scout unit, as they're all doing it in their various kitchens. And that would not be something people would have thought about before. Locally, I'm a training advisor and I'm on the local appointments advisory committee, and we've been running appointment panel meetings online. Do you know what? They are so much easier, and particularly for the people attending who say, I don't have to get childcare. We've had some of them where the children are sitting on a lap and around the place, and you do your 15-minute discussion, and they don't need to find a childcare, they don't need to go to some place they don't know and wait outside the right time to come in, all that sort of stuff. So actually it's been brilliant. We've had board meetings for the TSA board, all online, and you know what, I think they work even better. Now you need to see each other occasionally. I think there's stuff you can do in the margins of meetings that are quite important, but when you're doing an online meeting, you've got the chat function as well as being able to see each other. So if you're all agreeing with something, you can just write "I agree," and you can see that straight up, and you don't need lots of people talking about stuff. You can be much more quickly focused on answers, and you don't spend your time polluting the atmosphere traveling, which is genuinely, I think, a really, really big benefit of this. So those things will stay with me. We're locally where I scout in Oxfordshire, we've adopted the policy that appointments, meetings will always be by default online, unless the volunteer says, "Oh, I can't do that," in which case we'll go to their house or whatever. That's fine. But the default is we'll just have a 15-minute slot with you online and do something. And if people are happy with that, that's great. So it's those sorts of things. I think we shouldn't lose some of those things.
What is your top scouting memory?
Gosh, you haven't pounded that with anything, have you? The top scouting memory. Okay, my top scouting memory. All right, okay. It might change tomorrow, of course, might it? But but the one that comes to mind is I was, 20 years ago, I was helping on a local cub fun day with a friend of mine, Colin, and we had been taught that morning how to make woggles out of bits of rope. So we were taught that skill in the morning, and then we spent the entire day teaching that to about 1,500 Cub Scouts that were coming through in sort of bunches, right? And there's this Cub Scout, and it was a very hot day. That's quite important to the story. Very hot day. And this little Cub Scout arrived, and he tried, and he didn't quite manage to do it, and he had to move on, and he came back 3 times to keep having a go. And the last time he came back, he actually finished he made 2 woggles. And we said to him, "Oh, that's great. What's that for?" And he said, "Well, I've got one for me, one for my brother who's poorly, so he can't come." We thought, "Oh, that's just lovely, isn't it?" And then he said, "And you helped me so much," he said to my friend Colin, because I moved out of the way at this point because I saw what was coming. He said, "I've got this for you." And he put his hand in his pocket and he pulled out an unwrapped Mars bar that he'd been keeping in his pocket probably for the whole day, and this sort of squelchy mess of chocolate and gunk. And he held it out to Colin and said, "I'd like to give you this." And I thought, "Colin, over to you." Colin said, "No, it's okay. You keep it." And he went off as pleased as punch, this Cub Scout. And it was one of those moments where he thought, now that's what it's all about in so many dimensions. A Cub Scout trying to do something to help his brother who was ill, trying hard till he got it right, and then offering something that was his precious, prized possession of the time, even though it was frankly disgusting, offering that to someone else who'd helped him. And I thought that was just, to me, that sort of sums up, if we could all interact that way, if we could all give something of ourselves to others and be happy about things and be prepared to say thank you for things and be pleasant about stuff, the world would be a much better place. So that's one of my favorite memories.
How important is it that everyone can be open and allowed to be themselves in scouting?
Yeah, I think the word we're looking for probably is vital. I mean, the reality of this is that people should be able to be open and be themselves wherever they are in any part of their lives. And we all know that for various reasons, that's either it's not a fact or people feel they can't. You know, there's lots. This is quite a multidimensional issue, and it sometimes has as much to do with someone's own view of themselves and their own view of the world as it does the reality of the world around them. Both those things interact and can be quite complex. But I think what's really, really important is that when we talk about what we do in scouting, we're helping young people to develop, we're helping young people to find themselves, we're helping young people to be the best that they can of themselves, then you can't do that if you're putting limits on what themselves can be. And those limits appear, as many of us know, not just from what people say or people do, but also on what people don't say and what they don't do. Both those things are really important. And we never know quite the influence we have on other people, let alone as leaders that we have on young people. And it is quite important to remember that this this bond that we have as leaders of young people in non-formal education, in the fun way that we do things, is genuinely quite special, and that young people will have conversations with us, will talk about things they wouldn't say in other circumstances, in other situations. So we have to take it very, very seriously. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm going to get onto a soapbox. This is terrible. That's one of the reasons why, you know, in our training courses, in our modules about supporting young people, we talk about how do you create a supportive environment for young people. We talk about, you know, it may be that you need to have posters on the wall that make statements about things, as well as contact information so that young people know where to go if they're after a bit of help, but also to be seen to be someone who has integrity. I mean, young people will pick this up pretty quickly. And if you're seen as a bunch of adults that have integrity, that is, you say what you mean what you say, you don't gossip about things, you don't take the mickey out of people, they'll see that very quickly. And once they see that and they see that you are to be trusted, you can be trusted with something that's very important for that young person that you might think is not so important at the time for you, but might be vital for them. And that's in all dimensions of their life and their well-being. So I think it's crucial that people are create an environment that is open, allow young people to be themselves, and you as adults to be yourself. If you want to be a true leader, I'm talking about a lowercase l, leader of people in general, then you can't do that by putting on a mask. You can't do that by pretending. So if you say, yes, I'm a leader and I'm someone who always does everything and tells everybody what to do, and you're not really, the mask will slip and people will see that this doesn't match with what you say and who you are. And so the best way to lead is to lead from yourself, from inside, from a sense of integrity, which means you bring your whole self with your strengths and your weaknesses. And of course, we all have plenty of those along the way. And what makes this work really well is if you're bringing your full self to something and you're being open and honest about it, and people know that you're not good at that thing, let's say admin or whatever it might be, and everybody else is saying, well, we'll do that bit, and suddenly you become much stronger by being able to be honest about yourself, and that can be from your skills, from your attitudes, from your sense of self, from your sense of being, all of those aspects. So I think it's really important. And the one thing I would say to everybody who might be watching this for a moment of seriousness is that it is really important that we remember that we are, like it or not, role models for young people. We are seen, and what we do and don't do, what we say and don't say, are all noticed.
Favorite stage play?
Oh, I don't know. There's just so many. There is just so many. I suppose. So there are two plays from a classical canon that I absolutely love. So from Shakespeare. And so I love The Winter's Tale, and it makes me cry every time, which is really stupid. Wow. So The Winter's Tale is a story of an emperor who thinks his wife is cheating on him. She has a baby, he doesn't think it's his. He banishes the baby, he banishes the wife. His wife goes into an institution, she's locked away, and she dies. And then when eventually, as in all Shakespeare plays, the denouement comes, and the youngster who's grown up, who reveals himself, and everybody realizes what's what, and the king realizes he's been stupid. He goes to look for his wife who's died, and someone who's looking after him has made a statue of her. And they go underground to find the statue, and the statue comes to life, and you're left not knowing whether the statue has come to life in his imagination or it's real. And you just don't know. And it's just, it's absolutely astonishing. So I love that one. I love that. I love Macbeth because I think it has stories and lessons for all of us in it. And then I love a whole pile of new plays. And I've been getting a little bit into contemporary dance, and I'm an absolute novice at this, and I don't know enough about it. And so some things I go to, I don't understand. So a man dressed as a spider standing in a bath for 25 minutes, I didn't quite get it right, if I'm honest. But I saw another one by two young dancers in their early 20s that were telling the stories of the 1980s AIDS epidemic, and the individual perspectives of it, and people wearing extra clothes as they did to try and hide the fact that they were getting skeletal. And it was really, really moving. So I just, what I do locally for the theatre, in an attempt not to answer your question, right? What I do locally in the theatre is I buy tickets for almost everything that's on. And I go and watch stuff, and there are things that I would never have chosen to watch that I just blow me away, you know, and I think that's what's exciting, that you get a chance to think about what it means to you, to think about why it was staged the way it was staged, what the message is to you. And I've seen some brilliant one people plays, you know, with, you know, £5 for a ticket when they're putting on these small things, and it's just absolutely fabulous stuff. So I'd pretty well snap up almost anything in your hand, if I'm honest. And particularly after I've been to the theatre a couple of weeks ago with Nigel, a friend of mine who used to be international commissioner some years ago, and we went to the outdoor theatre that they built at Stratford upon Avon. So the Royal Shakespeare Company was doing something outside. I've not yet been inside a theatre. Oh yes, I have. I went last weekend. Last weekend I went into a theatre, and so it's a bit sort of new as we're getting back into that position again.
What's one goal for 2022?
I quite fancy being either a school governor or a college governor. There's a couple of colleges around where I live in Oxford, of course, and so I quite fancy that. In fact, I intended to start doing that just under 2 years ago, but surprisingly enough,
did something happen in the world that went?
No idea. But it got a bit busy. So that's something I would like to do. I've been sort of doing bits of volunteering in different places. So I've been helping locally with something that's our neighbourhood help scheme. So I'm on the end of a email list, and if people want things done, I go along and help, always with trepidation, because there are some things I know I can't do, so I don't do those sorts of things. But, you know, helping people out with their computer problems, or a lady who'd got a new walking stick, but one of the adjustable ones, and she didn't have enough strength to get it to the right length. So I went along to do that, hoping that I did have enough strength as well. So I've been doing a bit of that. I've been doing a bit of stuff during COVID times, you know, shopping for people, those sorts of things that are isolating, that sort of stuff as well. So I just think it'd be nice to do something again a bit broader, and probably with education.
What is one thing that you do for your mental well-being?
I stole one of these things from, remember 3 for 3 that we did, where we asked young people on social media to do it. And the one thing that I stole from that is choosing somebody at random and phoning them up from my phone, and just sort of occasionally just phoning someone up. So I do that for no reason, with no idea of what the conversation is going to be, but just to say hello. That's quite good fun. And I walk. I try to get out and walk just to get a bit of fresh air. And I actually normally listen to a podcast or two, so I quite like that. So,
favorite place to visit?
Oh, that's really hard. I think that's really, really hard. I think at the moment, because it changes from year to year, I think at the moment it's the Lake District. Been there a couple of times recently, hired a cottage, and then I go running. So I run when I'm not away. When I'm at home, I normally go to the gym every day, or 5 days, anyway, the weekdays, and have a short run, and then do a load of grunting and groaning exercises. When I'm on holiday, I run sort of 6 or 7K in the morning before my friends are with get up, and which is really great. It's really good. It makes you feel super smug for the rest of the day. See, that's the point, right? And we're at Grasmere this year, and running around Grasmere water is you know, at sort of 7 o'clock in the morning is just lovely, except when it's raining, as I did a few times, and as I'm a glasses wearer, as you can see, you can't see a thing, so it's just a bit dangerous, really. So I think at the moment, Lake District, it has a place in my heart, but then there's so many other lovely places I like as well. So
who inspires you?
There are many people who inspire me, I think, and all for different reasons. Maybe I'll just pick up two and give you the reasons. So the first one, which I think a lot of people will always say, is my dad. Everyone's dad has something. My dad was really astonishing, because he went to all the things that I did. And I did a lot of at school, a lot of unaccompanied close harmony singing, and he used to go along with all the things we did all over the place with that. But he was a referee in a bit of a previous life, and so he went to lots of sports things with my brother, because my brother was a footballer and a javelin thrower and things. And it always felt like he was genuinely interested. And I don't know if he was or he wasn't, to be honest, but he went to that range of things. And I always think that's a really good quality to have, which is to see the good things in everything and to be interested in everything that people are doing. So I think that's something that always inspires me. And then I think, although I've never met the person, but and the name's just gone from my head. An Evil Cradling. He wrote a book called An Evil Cradling. He was a reporter, and he got kidnapped and was held. Brian Keenan, Brian Keenan,
Right.
and he got held hostage by people who genuinely wanted to kill him for about a year and a half. And his writing is astonishing. If anybody wants to get inside someone's head, then An Evil Cradling is the name of the book. But what he showed was that you can keep a straight course even though all around you things are going all off, and you can keep an eye on what you want to do and keep a focus on that stuff, and be able to find the strength in yourself to do the right things. And I think that's really important, because in today's world there are many things that attempt to knock you off course, whether that's social media, emails, people's lack of sort of a fuse to just gently take things in and so on. All those sorts of things sort of push people to react and act in certain ways that I think aren't helpful to anybody, letting themselves. And so I always, when I think of his book and I think about the way in which he kept that straight arrow, knowing what he wanted to do and why he was what he was and so on. So I think that those are things that inspire me. What's your one guilty pleasure? Got loads of guilty pleasures. I watch some real trash on TV. Real trash on TV.
Not for you. I would never.
And what happens is my TiVo box normally watches it for me, and then sometimes later I watch it for myself if I'm lucky. And so what happens is I might be working on something at midnight or 1 a.m. or something, and I don't like it to be completely quiet, so it'll be on the TV and I'll be working away, and then I'll realize it's an hour later and I haven't watched anything, and I've finished what I was doing. But I suppose which things do I like? Vera. I like Vera, the detective series. I think that's hilariously brilliant. So I love that. What else do I watch? Oh, this is a real admission. I do like watching the audition stages of some of the reality shows. I don't like them when they take the mickey out of people. I think that's desperately unfair. But I love seeing some of the raw talent that appears on stage. I lose interest when they get to the heat stages, because they're all got a bit groomed, really. And then it's not a very guilty pleasure, it's an absolute pleasure, is the Great British Bake Off. I love that. What would you like to be remembered for as your time as UK Chief Commissioner? I'm not too concerned about that, if I'm honest. Okay. Because some people will like what I've done, some people will hate what I've done, some people have a mixture, all those things, and all those are valid. All those are absolutely valid. I suppose the one thing that I hope will be welcomed by most people is that the amount of highlight and insistence that I and my colleagues put upon people being nice to one another and treating each other with respect. Because I do think there's something very powerful about disagreeing in a respectful way, which says, well, I don't agree with that because I think this. And that's very valid and very powerful. To say you're an idiot doing that, it's like, well, that's not valid and it's not powerful, right? And so I think that being able to disagree in a good way is important, but also just being nice to people, saying thank you for things and please, and just being pleasant. I mean, you can still get what you need at the end of the day, but you can do it with us all feeling a bit happier, really. So I do hope that people feel that that's been worthwhile. But everybody can make their own minds up, to be honest. And I don't mind whether they, what they say, because it's their view and their view counts for them.